the person sitting next to you. Now raise your hand if you'd be willing to disclose to that person your current weight. Now, raise your hand if you'd be willing to share with that same person your last sexual fantasy, or if you've ever had a sexually transmitted disease. I would say right now, during the first question, your privacy setting was probably set at a low or moderate. But during the second questions, your privacy settings probably jumped to high and maybe at a maximum. I guess that at least half of you will be willing to consider sharing your current weight with the person sitting next to you. But as I ask more personal questions, most of you would not raise your hand. As a sexuality educator working in the field of reproductive life planning, we often push the boundaries between what is public and what is private. I use this activity called privacy squares in a training on HIV counseling and sexual health. Participants are given a diagram, and they are to select with whom they would share their age, weight, height, sexual history, and other personal questions. And just like you might guess, when they're asked these questions, most of the participants will put their responses in the inner squares, meaning they would keep it to themselves or only share it with someone they consider to be an intimate. Now think about the work that we do as sexuality educators and providers. To them, we are the public. They come to us and their privacy settings may not be set on low to moderate. Now, social media, reality TV, and even our current societal expectations really push the boundaries between what is public and what is private. Most oftentimes, it seems like the public has access to private and the private has access to public. Think about it. Have you bought a new device lately or tried to download a new application? Typically, the first thing they ask you to do is to set your privacy settings. You have to constantly think about what you're going to share and what you're going to hold true and private. Now, here's another example. I recently mourned a friendship. This was a person that I had an intimate connection with, and over the course of a few weeks, that person and I weren't as close as we used to be. Now, I have strong empirical evidence that supports that this relationship has changed. Now, this is foolproof data, and I hope that you're willing to hear how I know this relationship has changed. I posted some amazing things on social media. And that person didn't like it and didn't even make a comment. All right, okay. Now, I know that may seem petty or what we say superficial, but in reality, in addition to the lack of likes and the comments, the number of personal interactions, phone calls, etc., had declined over the course of 2 weeks. But for us, and many of us, that's what we know about intimacy. Social media, technology continues to push those boundaries. We don't know what's real. We don't know what's fake. Some say that social media enables intimacy, while others say people are less likely to share because it's going to be out there for the public. You can decide for yourself what you think. But 1 out of 10 online dating profiles are actually fake. Most of us in the audience probably couldn't even fathom being bamboozled, misled, or deceived online on a dating application, all in the pursuit of an intimate connection. But it happens. People are in need of connection and intimacy. We have a hunger for that connection. And we have this hunger because we were born with the hunger, because we were born into relationships. The relationships that we establish early on in our lives affect the way that we are socialized and how we respond to intimacy. I'm thinking about how a person shows up early in your life and how that impacts you throughout your childhood. This is a picture of my 2 nephews. Here, my oldest nephew is having an intimate moment with his son. Now, for most of you are probably saying, well, it looks like they're playing video games. But I can assure you, the youngest one is definitely not playing a video game. Some people will say, well, there's technology involved. How is the dad really connecting with his son? But look at his little face, if you can see it. And you can't see that his little hand is reached out on his dad's leg in connection. I am definitely confident that he is satisfied with the moment that he's having with his dad right now. And when it comes to intimacy, it's not about being perfect, it's about being present in that moment. Helping people understand how to be vulnerable, how to share, how to care, and how to disclose information is essential to our human development, specifically our sexual development. As providers and educators, it's important that we help people navigate how to go through life with intimate connections. What's probably most important is that sometimes we're not sure how the teaching is being provided and what the teaching is based on. So it can be confusing. I went back to social media because, of course, I needed more empirical evidence. So I did an Instagram search on the hashtag intimacy. This yielded over 200,000 photos depicting intimacy as a physical closeness or sexual behavior. More often than not, people equate intimacy with sexual activity. And since this is what's happening, we have to be ready to help people navigate and understand the different levels of intimacy. Intimacy looks different between you and your students, your spouse, your lover, your friends, and even acquaintances. And so with these different types of relationships, there are different levels of intimacy that has to be navigated and explained. I use the circles of sexuality in teaching about sexual health. These 5 interrelated circles basically show different variables related to us as human beings in sexuality. Intimacy is critical in my teaching. I often laugh and say, I feel like I'm teaching people to be human. Human sexuality. Okay, well, with intimacy, it's about having a human connection with another person, having an emotional connection, but yet still having a strong sense of self. It also means being existentially comfortable being alone. As I think about the work that we do in preconception health, reproductive life planning, and sex ed in general, a lot of times we're working with people to have them be the most healthy they can be prior to conception. That should also include healthy intimacy as a part of healthy sexuality. Helping them to be comfortable in disclosing intimate details about their sexual selves to their partners and providers. Helping them to navigate relationships so they too can learn to be existentially comfortable being alone. When I think about the work that we're doing, sometimes we get really caught up in our work. We have to teach that and serve this person and get this person here. It becomes different from what most intimate relationships are, which is give and take, and it becomes take and take. But as a provider, we also need to be in tune with our own intimacy and consider how we're going to show up for the people that we serve. We need to be there for them with empathy and caring support to really effectively meet their needs. So I ask you tonight, what if you considered including intimacy in your work? What if you reassess your own privacy settings? What if you took the time to understand and learn the privacy settings of the people that you work with? I'm ready to do that. Are you? Thank you.